At precisely midnight, intimate sounds of a man and woman echoed from beyond the wall. The noises were completely unconcealed, so loud I couldn't possibly fall asleep. Enraged, I bluntly typed into the resident group chat, "Couples living together should be mindful of the time. Causing others sleepless nights will lead to an unpeaceful death." Not long after, a knock sounded at my door and a man's voice called from outside. "Excuse me, I apologize for disturbing you. I've brought a gift to make amends." Just as I was about to open the door, the words, "Do not open the door," suddenly appeared before my eyes. "The one outside is not human, it's a Serpent Man. The gift he brings is a bleeding human head. The couple in the room next door were killed by the Serpent Man long ago. Now, in their room, there are only two corpses entwined, their intestines spilling out. This Serpent Man is in his mating season. A Serpent Man in mating season is extremely cruel. He will act purely on instinct, disregarding the lives of others." I pressed my eye to the peephole anxiously, confronting a bleeding human head. My heart pounded, so terrified I stumbled backward. Outside, there really was a human head. The words reappeared. This female NPC didn't have to die. She brought it upon herself by sending those random messages in the group, attracting the Serpent Man's attention. But this female NPC is also an important character to drive the plot. She is the male lead's first love. It's because of her death that the male lead joins the case investigation, ultimately killing the Serpent Man, and then begins his monster-hunting journey. How did she die? It seems she resisted to her last breath, resolutely refusing to comply with the Serpent Man, eventually taking her own life. Oh my God, that's truly terrifying. It must have been excruciating. But I heard the Serpent Man has a very special something. Those who know, know. Wow, this female character is incredibly devoted, choosing death over letting the Serpent Man touch her, all to preserve her purity for the male lead. I was utterly bewildered. This female NPC is asterisk me. The male lead is asterisk my asterisk first love. Where would I even get a first love? I leaned against the door, trembling, staring through the peephole at the bleeding human head, while simultaneously reading the strange text before my eyes. A Serpent Man, something that looks like a snake, must be incredibly ugly and terrifying. But the next second, the dead human head outside the door suddenly dropped to the ground with a thud. Immediately afterward, a face appeared through the peephole, impossibly beautiful. Skin as white as snow, narrow, elongated golden-slit eyes, and beneath a high nose bridge, thin lips curled slightly into a wicked smile. I was instantly stunned. Is asterisk this the Serpent Man the text was talking about? He's way too handsome. Seeing me staring blankly at Lu Bai, the words on the screen immediately exploded. Wait, this development isn't right. What is this female NPC doing? Sister, wake up. He's a psychopathic killer. No matter how handsome he is, you can't fall for Stockholm Syndrome. It's over, this greedy girl is beyond saving. Who said she was preserving her purity for the male lead? I think she's already fallen for the Serpent Man. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding, not from fear, but from exhilaration. I yanked the door open, directly meeting the Serpent Man's gaze. Up close, this Serpent Man was at least 1.88 meters tall, muscles rippling beneath his clothes, every facial feature exquisitely flawless. I suddenly remembered the "those who know, know" phrase from the text. Lu Bai was taken aback by my direct stare, unnaturally stepping back 2 paces. He cleared his throat twice, then regained his serious expression. He pointed at the head on the ground. "Don't you like this apology gift?" His voice was deep, warm, and magnetic, his finger gently tapping the door. "Then I'll get you something else." With those words, he slowly pulled out from behind him a man's corpse with an 8-pack, a butterfly bow tied around its neck, looking like a carefully wrapped present. "Freshly dead, still warm," he smiled, "a gift for you to make amends." Almost immediately, the captivating smile on his face froze and shattered. His golden-slit eyes narrowed into thin lines, the entire eye socket reduced to 2 cold, pale slivers devoid of life. The corners of his mouth ripped open to his ears at an angle impossible for humans. 2 long, slender fangs, still glistening with a trace of blood, suddenly shot out, pointed directly at me. The words on the screen exploded. "Ah, the Serpent Man is about to kill. This female character is doomed." So scary, I'm most afraid of snakes. Amidst the terrified screams, I extended my leg and hooked it around the man. "Hey, handsome." I flashed a radiant smile. "Single, my mattress is super soft. Want to come in and try it out?" the text read. The Serpent Man was stunned by my super soft mattress line. He even forgot to retract his fangs, the white in his slit eyes freezing for a moment. Before he could react, my leg, hooked around his waist, tightened with force. The tall, muscular, handsome Serpent Man stumbled, pulled forcefully through the doorway by me. Slam! The door closed behind me, shutting out the bleeding human head and the man's corpse with the butterfly bow outside. The words on the screen were immediately drowned in question marks. Damn it, did she really pull the Serpent Man inside? It's over, the fan favorite man who courts death has arrived. No, this girl is too bold. This greedy girl is greedy for everything. This Serpent Man is handsome, but he can truly take lives. Pulled inside, Lu Bai stumbled, his hands grasping his own collar, looking at me in astonishment. A question lingered in my mind. According to the text, this Serpent Man's mating season was incredibly violent. Why did this one seem a little embarrassed? Without another word, I directly pushed the Serpent Man onto the bed. Just seconds later, I felt the body beneath me rapidly heat up. He let out a low growl, flipped the dynamic, and pressed me down. That night, I experienced a sweetness beyond words. I could only say that a Serpent Man in mating season truly lived up to his reputation. His extraordinary body was an extreme challenge. After a full night, the bedroom finally fell silent again. Lu Bai pushed himself up, his golden slit eyes fixed on me. Seeing that I was still alive, an incredulous flicker appeared in his eyes. I lazily leaned against the disheveled pillow. Aside from a slight ache in my back and legs, my spirits were quite good. I even stretched comfortably. His voice was much hoarser, carrying the languor after pleasure and a hint of confusion. You're not dead. I licked my lips, smacking them twice as if savoring a taste, my scrutinizing gaze sweeping over his firm body. Not bad at all. I changed my tone, my gaze immediately turning cold, carrying undisguised disgust. Too bad, it's dirty now. Bai's golden eyes narrowed and he subtly raised an eyebrow. Dirty? Are you talking about me? Yes, I casually twirled a strand of my hair. Having killed so many people, tainted by so many lives, have blood, flesh, and souls all seeped into your being, no matter how beautiful or useful you are, you're still just a filthy thing. Once was enough. A vein pulsed on Lu Bai's forehead. He let out a soft, mocking laugh, enraged to the point of mirth. I'm a germaphobe. You are my first mate. Those people outside weren't killed by me. I raised an eyebrow, a little surprised. The couple next door wasn't you? The human head on the ground wasn't your gift? The man's corpse with the bow outside the door wasn't brought by you? Lu Bai replied. I was just passing by. I smelled the bloody stench from the room next door, and then I saw the message you sent in the resident group chat on their phone. I looked at him speechless. So you deliberately picked up 2 corpses to scare me. Lu Bai shrugged. I won't deny it. I narrowed my eyes, assessing him. For some reason, I instinctively believed the man in front of me wasn't lying. But if it wasn't him, then who killed those people? At this moment, the words that had been silent all night suddenly started appearing wildly before my eyes. Damn it, what happened last night? Why are these 2 in bed with disheveled clothes? What is it that my noble VIP shouldn't see? But why is this female NPC still alive? Normal women can't survive leaving a Serpent Man's bed during mating season. Why does this female NPC look so satisfied? She can't not die. If she doesn't die, the future plot can't develop. I looked at the text before my eyes, quickly realizing that this world was a novel, and a male leads monster hunting, level-up novel at that. And I was a minor character in the opening act of this story. A supporting character driven to suicide by jumping from a building by the first big monster, the Serpent Man, right from the start. Although I was a supporting character, I was the male lead's first love. It was because of my death that the male lead became powerful, beginning his monster hunting, level-up mode. But was the author of this novel too careless in developing supporting characters? With my physique, how could I be afraid of a Serpent Man in mating season? My family's bloodline was very special. Since reaching adulthood, an insatiable craving had been etched into my bones. Normal men? Forget satisfying me, they couldn't even pique my interest. They'd be out of breath in less than 3 minutes, utterly boring. But this Serpent Man was different. I recalled the ultimate experience of last night. It was truly a rare feast. Thinking of this, I suddenly remembered who the male lead mentioned in the text was. In college, I dated someone for a few days, but that man, though outwardly handsome, turned out to be a weakling, all show and no substance. Yet the text said, I preserved myself like a jade for this kind of man, even committing suicide. Lu Bai, who had already dressed, turned and placed a small white object in my hand. "My name is Lu Bai. From now on, you are my only mate. If there's an emergency, blow this serpent bone whistle, and I will come to you immediately." With that, he stood up, dressed, and left. The text reappeared. "This plot is getting stranger and stranger. If this first love doesn't die, how will the male lead defeat his first monster? But I have to say, this Serpent Man is really handsome. For some reason, I'm almost rooting for him and this first love to work out." Exhausted from the night, I felt sleepy. I practically collapsed onto the bed and fell asleep. But I hadn't slept long before I was awakened by a commotion outside the door. Soon enough, there was a knock on my door again. As I got up to open it the next second, the door was violently forced open by several police officers. I stood still in my pajamas, watching them. After confirming there was no one behind me, several police officers looked at me with bewildered expressions. "Are you the owner of this apartment? You're still alive." My face was blank. Why does everyone want me dead? The middle-aged police officer leading them had a stern expression, his sharp gaze sweeping across my somewhat cluttered room. "We received a report that both apartments on this floor had victims, one of them being yours." He paused, adding, "And we've just found an extremely horrific crime scene in the adjacent room." "Who called the police?" I asked casually. Logically, I should have been the first to discover the murder next door. But last night, truly, encountering such a masterpiece as Lu Bai, I had completely forgotten to call the police. A police officer opened his mouth to answer my question. I realized I couldn't hear his answer, I only saw his lips moving. I asked the same question again, but still heard no sound from him. I pondered for a moment, then pulled a younger officer aside and tentatively asked, "How old are you?" "Officer, 24. I tried asking a few more questions and heard all their answers clearly. Only that one question, no matter how I asked it, yielded no sound from the officer. How strange. Seeing I was still alive, the police officers didn't talk much more to me, only asked me to change clothes and go to the police station for a statement. As I stepped out the door, a sickly sweet, nauseating stench assaulted my nose. The door to the next room was wide open, yellow crime scene tape strung across it. Officers in thick shoes, masks, and gloves were busy inside. I held my breath, looking into the room. The living room was in disarray. A man and a woman naked were entwined in an extremely distorted and tight embrace. Their skin had turned a strange bluish purple. There were lividity spots and a semi-transparent viscous fluid. Their abdomens were torn open by immense force, dark red intestines, like roughly pulled ropes, coiled across the floor, mixed with congealed blood and indescribable filth. The corpses had already begun to decompose, swollen and deformed. The surrounding police officers all had grim expressions. Forensic personnel were carefully collecting evidence and taking photos. My gaze focused on the details of the bodies, a strong sense of abnormality rising within me. This rate of decomposition was too fast. Moreover, the expressions on the faces of these two corpses were too calm. How could bodies so tormented die with such serenity? Before I could look closer, the bodies were covered with a white sheet. It wasn't until I finished giving my statement and left the police station that I had time to check my phone. But as soon as I opened it, countless messages flooded the screen, almost stunning me. The WeChat app constantly showed new messages. Almost all were condolences from friends and acquaintances. The loudest mourner was my best friend, Zhao Zhu. "Boo-hoo, Shenyi, why did you leave me alone and go? We said we'd go find male escorts next week. We promised to be best sisters for life. Why did you go ahead alone? I miss you so much. You died so tragically, it must have hurt, didn't it? Oh, before you died, did you delete our chat history? I'm afraid others might read it." With a darkened expression, I replied to her, "I'm not dead." "Zhao Zhu, Mom, are you a person or a ghost?" I sent her a voice message. "Zhao Zhu, you dumpling, your dad is still alive and well." Zhao Zhu replied almost immediately, "Oh my God, you're really not dead? Then what's this news about?" With that, she forwarded a news article to me. I opened the sensational headline link. "Horrific urban legend comes true. Serpent Man appears in North City residential area. Lovers tortured to death. Young woman next door commits suicide to preserve her purity." The accompanying image was an exterior shot of my apartment building. There was even a photo I had posted on my personal social media a few months ago. The photo had been grayscaled, with blood-red text beside it. The news content vividly described the tragic case that happened last night. A couple was brutally killed and their bodies desecrated by the legendary Serpent Man. At the same time, a young woman living in the adjacent room, resolutely preserving her purity for her first boyfriend, ultimately committed suicide. Her body was also found at home. The article even seriously popularized knowledge about the urban legend of the Serpent Man, a terrifying half-human, half-snake creature who, during mating season, seeks out couples to perform a brutal ritual. What made my hair stand on end even more was that the article was posted just after 3 a.m. this morning. Not long after Lu Bai left, right after I fell into an exhausted sleep. The comment section was filled with condolences and horror. "Ah, this is an older classmate from my school, so beautiful. Oh my God, rest in peace, sister. So scary, the Serpent Man really exists. I heard she died terribly. To avoid being defiled by the Serpent Man, she stabbed herself in the neck to preserve her purity for her boyfriend." I touched my neck, taking a cold breath. Why did it seem like the whole world already knew I would die last night? Even the news article and a memorial tribute were already prepared. I didn't dare to go home for the time being. I hurriedly packed a few necessities and went straight to a well-secured 5-star hotel in the city center. Booking a room, going upstairs, swiping the card to open the door, everything went smoothly. Just as I was about to close the door, a hand blocked it. I was startled, turning around, only to see Zhao Zhu, carrying a bulging travel bag, panting as she squeezed in, then closed the door. "Shen Yi," I was scared to death. When I saw that news, it really startled me. "Thank goodness you're really not dead." She rushed forward and hugged me tightly. I was both relieved and bewildered. "How did you know I was here?" Zhao Zhu gave me a sidelong glance. "Did you forget? The farm game we played, after pairing up, we can see each other's location anytime." I was slightly stunned. That was true. Although the last time I played that game seemed to be years ago, I hadn't deleted the app. I looked at Zhao Zhu in front of me, feeling a bit uneasy. Zhao Zhu was clingy and loyal, but she was actually very timid, especially when it came to things clearly related to murder, horror, and urban legends like this. With her personality, she would never have dared to come find me before. "Zhao Zhu, you dumpling, it might not be safe here. You've seen the news, that Serpent Man." I chose my words carefully, wanting to persuade her to leave. What's there to be afraid of? Zhao Zhu cut me off, flopping onto the bed and patting the spot beside her. "I'm here. Besides, if we die together. I was terrified when I saw that news this morning. I absolutely have to stay with you. Sisters are meant to rely on each other." Her voice was incredibly firm, even a little excited. Unable to sway her, I temporarily agreed to let her stay. The first half of the night passed without incident. Zhao Zhu and I even shared a lavish late-night meal. But at precisely midnight, intimate sounds of a man and woman immediately erupted from the adjacent room. The noises were sickeningly clear, like a replay of last night's drama, piercing through the wall from next door without any warning. I was instantly stunned. I had chosen one of the top 5-star hotels in the area. Not only was the security excellent, but the soundproofing was superb. How could such clear sounds possibly penetrate? And the words on the screen immediately exploded. It's here. The plot correction power has arrived. I told you this female character has asterisk to die, otherwise how will the male lead appear? How will the plot continue? The Serpent Man in mating season kills any couple he sees. Is this hotel's soundproofing that bad? Never mind, Shen Yi must asterisk die tonight, or something's wrong with the plot. Zhao Zhu, completely unaware of what was happening, just grinned mischievously at me. "Oh my, things are getting intense next door, aren't they?" Almost immediately, thump, thump, thump. A heavy knocking suddenly sounded at the door. Zhao Zhu and I both flinched. "Who is it?" I tried to make my voice sound calm. From outside the door, a gentle and polite female voice echoed. "Hello, room service. Today is the hotel's anniversary, and each room receives a complimentary late-night snack." Zhao Zhu sprung up, quickly heading towards the door. "Wow, late-night snack, such a good thing?" "Zhao Zhu, don't open the door," I yelled, rushing to grab her arm. The moment I pulled Zhao Zhu back, a powerful sensation of being watched made my hair stand on end. I instinctively turned to look through the peephole. Outside the peephole was only an empty hallway, nothing at all. So where did that voice come from? But the instant I got closer, a face suddenly pressed against it, covering the peephole completely. It was not a human face at all, but layers of dark green scales, horrifying bumps. A pair of narrow, elongated, pitch-black slit eyes with no whites stared straight at me through the peephole's glass. Inside the gaping mouth were densely packed, small, sharp fangs. A forked black tongue flicked out, hissing. And that terrifying, ferocious snake face emitted a gentle and polite voice, identical to the receptionist's voice from earlier. "Ma'am, are you still there? Could you please open the door?" Extreme fear immediately clutched my heart. I recoiled in terror, my heart almost stopping. "What is that? How can it be so ugly?" The words on the screen immediately exploded. Damn it, this is the real Serpent Man, so ugly and disgusting. So this is what killed the people in the room next door last night. The correction has begun, the mastermind has arrived. So this is the real Serpent Man who killed Shenye? Who was the one last night? Bang, bang, bang. The impact outside suddenly became violent, no longer a knock, but an immense force relentlessly slamming against the door. The creature's strength was terrifying. The five-star hotel's security door could barely withstand it. It quickly crashed through the door and burst inside. In that life-or-death moment, the corner of my eye caught sight of the high-proof white liquor bottle on the table that hadn't been drunk yet. I almost lunged for the bottle, using all my strength to splash the liquor towards the half-human, half-snake creature. It suddenly recoiled its claws, its entire body convulsing and writhing violently. I knew snakes were afraid of realgar wine, but I couldn't find any then, so I tried white liquor, and unexpectedly it worked. Opportunity. I grabbed Zhao Zhu, who was still dazed, and rushed out. Fortunately, the elevator had just stopped on this floor. I dragged Zhao Zhu into the elevator, frantically pressing buttons for the first floor, 9th floor, 8th floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor. The elevator doors opened just as I prepared to bolt out with all my might. The next second, the Serpent Man's ugly, ferocious face suddenly appeared at the elevator entrance, staring intensely at me. "I found you." A hoarse, inhuman voice came from its cracked mouth. That claw suddenly retracted, then grabbed my shoulder. An unimaginable strong force surged through me. It roughly yanked me out of the elevator, throwing me hard onto the ground. The intense pain as my back hit the floor made me dizzy. This thing was truly too disgusting. I finally understood why in the original plot, I would rather commit suicide than be violated by the Serpent Man. The screen was filled with despairing text. "It's over, correction successful. Farewell, female NPC. It's time for the male lead to appear." As I struggled, something hard and cold brushed against my thigh. It was the serpent bone whistle Lu Bai had given me last night. I hadn't thought much of it then, but now it felt like clutching a lifeline. I blew the whistle with all my might. A sharp, mournful, extremely piercing whistle immediately echoed through the room. The ugly Serpent Man pinning me down suddenly froze. Almost simultaneously with the whistle, asterisk crash. The enormous glass door on the first floor of the hotel immediately shattered into 1,000 sparkling shards of glass. A tall, straight figure stood silently at the edge of the shattered door frame. A dark wind swept through his bangs. His gaze, cold to the bone, locked onto the ugly monster pinning me down. His thin lips parted slightly, and his deep, magnetic voice clearly rang out, "You dare touch what's mine?" He tilted his head slightly, the corner of his mouth curving into a chilling smile. In his icy golden eyes, murderous intent seethed. "Get out!" The immense pressure on me suddenly vanished. The ugly Serpent Man recoiled, and on its twisted, ferocious face, the originally vicious black-slit eyes now held nothing but pure, animalistic fear. It didn't even dare to look at Lu Bai again. A short, piercing hiss escaped its throat, and with an almost convulsive posture, it scrambled on all fours towards the hotel lobby at an astonishing speed. Within sight, Lu Bai stepped over the debris, walking leisurely towards me. Stopping in front of me, he bent down slightly, looking down at my pathetic state. "Shenye," he said my name, drawing out the last syllable. "You seem to be very prone to dying, don't you? What was that thing?" I didn't care to argue with him, my eyes fixed in the direction the monster had disappeared. "What does it have to do with you? Is it also a Serpent Man?" The playful expression on Lu Bai's face immediately vanished. A clear flicker of disgust appeared in his golden eyes. "Don't compare that low-grade creature to me." His voice was cold, carrying an innate arrogance. "Just a few contaminated half-breeds, so out of control they've lost even their instincts. So the couple in the room next door yesterday, and the one who brought the human head, it killed them too?" I pressed, recalling the two rotting, entwined corpses and the bleeding human head on the floor. Lu Bai furrowed his brow, slowly shaking his head. "Impossible," he said with certainty. "I examined those corpses yesterday. Their deaths were very strange, definitely not caused by snakes." He paused. "Our tribe does indeed become more aggressive during mating season, but not to the point of aimlessly killing people everywhere." He glanced at me, adding, "But your hotel faces the sun, and its yang energy is extremely strong. They shouldn't have sought you out here. Yet that thing just now seemed to have pinpointed your exact location. His gaze made my heart pound. I instinctively recoiled half a step. His cold finger hooked under my chin, forcing me to lift my head and meet his golden-slit eyes. But now the problem is temporarily resolved. His gaze lingered on my face for a moment, that look carrying a strange scrutiny and an indescribable hint of interest. Before I could react, he wrapped his arms around me and lifted me up. "Hey, what are you doing?" I asked, startled. "To the room," he said concisely, carrying me straight towards the elevator, completely ignoring Zhaozu, who was both shocked and unable to suppress a knowing smile beside us. I immediately fell silent. Back in the tidied room, Lu Bai placed me on the large bed. He turned and leaned against the window set, his golden eyes glittering in the dim light. "Don't worry, that thing won't find you during the day. Sunlight has a natural suppressive effect on us. No serpent person, high or low rank, can exert their power during the day, let alone harm you. This is a rule etched into our bloodline, so you are safe during the day. But when the sun sets," he stepped closer to me, his slender fingers gently touching the serpent bone whistle I clutched in my hand, then immediately blew it. "No matter where you are, no matter what abnormalities surround you, I will come." He walked to the side of the bed, bent down, his shadow enveloping me. "Now it's time to collect my protection fee." Outside the window was the quiet city. Inside the room was a tempestuous embrace. It wasn't until dawn that he finally released me. I was so exhausted I didn't want to move a single finger, my consciousness drifting on the edge of unconsciousness. Lu Bai got up, quickly dressed. "Remember, blow the whistle when the sun sets," he instructed again, his voice hoarse after our intimacy but still clear and powerful. With that, he didn't linger, his figure merging into the morning light, quietly disappearing at the door. Not long after, I was again awakened by a furious knocking at the door. "Police, open up!" Outside the door was the familiar face of the middle-aged police officer from yesterday. When the door opened and he saw me, his facial muscles visibly twitched. "Ms. Shenyi," his voice was dry, full of surprise. "Why is it you?" "I'm fine." I stepped aside. "Come in." The middle-aged officer's gaze lingered on my tired face for a moment, his brows furrowing even tighter. His voice carried the solemnity of official duty. "We received a report that 2 guests in rooms 1908 and 1907 both died last night." He paused, his eyes locked on me. "Those are your room and the room next door." My face was filled with dark lines. "Again, who reported me dead first?" His sharp gaze swept over my face, filled with suspicion and extreme bewilderment. "Ms. Shen, this is very strange. 2 serious murder cases, you were the closest person to the scene each time, and both times you were unharmed." He even emphasized, "The news has twice in a row declared your death." I looked at my phone. Sure enough, just like yesterday, I was alive and well, but the news had declared me dead. I asked the same question as yesterday about the informant's details. I stared at the middle-aged officer's moving lips, clearly seeing the shape of his mouth as it opened and closed. He was saying 3 words, "the informant," but the subsequent syllables seemed to have been erased, utterly blank. Again, I couldn't hear it. I didn't ask further, just stepped out to check the situation in the room next door. The condition of those 2 corpses was almost identical to the 2 from yesterday: a tragic death, decomposing bodies, and calm faces. All of this carried an indescribable strangeness. When evening came and it was dark, I quickly blew the serpent bone whistle. Before the whistle's sound faded, the room temperature dropped sharply. The shadows in the corner of the room seemed to come alive, subtly shifting and gathering. A tall, straight figure emerged from them. Lu Bai had arrived. He made no unnecessary movements, walking straight to the large single sofa in the middle of the room, sitting down comfortably, leaning back into the soft cushion, his golden-slit eyes slowly closing as he rested. The room fell into a strange silence. At precisely midnight, like a switch being accurately flipped, the same sounds as previous nights echoed from the adjacent room. The intimate, entwined whispers of a man and woman once again pierced through the thick wall of the 5-star hotel without warning, clearly pouring into my ears. My body instantly tensed. "It's here again, it's here again." Next, thump, thump, thump. 3 rhythmic knocks, neither strong nor light, sounded. A gentle, polite female voice carrying professional sweetness came through the door. "Hello, room service. The hotel is offering a special calming late-night snack for VIP guests." Lu Bai, sitting on the sofa, immediately opened his eyes when he heard that voice. He adjusted a button on his already neat shirt, then walked towards the room door. He didn't look through the peephole, not even a hint of hesitation. Click! The door lock was gently turned. He didn't open the door completely, only stood there, blocking the entrance. But I clearly saw Lu Bai's golden slit eyes narrow slightly, his sharp gaze directed downwards at a certain spot outside the door. Deadly silence. There were no growls, no impacts, only a rustling sound like a venomous snake gliding rapidly across a carpet, moving at an incredible speed, disappearing at the end of the corridor. Lu Bai stood motionless at the door. A few seconds later, he quietly closed and locked the door. It's fine now, that thing has gone far away. He turned to look at me, the vigilance in his eyes replaced by fervent desire. Now it's time for the main event. I only felt my body lighten, then quickly sank into the softness of the large bed. This Serpent Man in mating season was truly a wound-up robot. The next 2 days, everything repeated identically. Every midnight, an extremely ugly Serpent Man would come, and each time, it would end abruptly under Lu Bai's silent threat. But on the third night, the knock I anticipated didn't come. On the morning of the fourth day, Lu Bai was no longer there. My phone vibrated frantically, news notifications constantly exploding on the screen. Major breakthrough, mastermind of serial murder case arrested, horrific Serpent Man legend concludes. The accompanying image showed several blurry photos of the arrest scene. In the center, a young man in a black coat stood slightly tilted, one hand in his pocket, the other hanging by his side, his fingers seemingly clutching a nearly burnt yellow talisman fragment. This face had a chilling familiarity. Before I could think clearly, the words on the screen immediately overwhelmed my vision. Ah, the male lead has finally appeared. So handsome. Chen Sen is Chen Sen, the #1 demon-slaying sword. Boo-hoo, my husband is so handsome, he easily solved the Serpent Man case that plagued the police. The male lead is truly handsome and virtuous, with superhuman strength, casually bringing justice to the unjustly dead. He's famous, the era of the male lead has begun. Chen Sen, I finally remembered. This was my weak, outwardly handsome college crush and also the male lead in those texts. The text kept refreshing, but I quickly noticed something unusual. This time, the words on the screen didn't seem to mention me at all. The male lead's first love, who was supposed to die at the hands of the Serpent Man. The reason for the male lead's extermination of the Serpent Man had also changed too. He couldn't bear to see so many innocent people killed by the Serpent Man, so he took action to eliminate them. I frantically searched for local news from a few days ago, entering keywords like North City residential area, Shenyi, suicide, nothing, completely blank. The news that had spread everywhere a few days ago, declaring that I kept myself pure for love and tragically committed suicide, had all been erased. The internet was strangely clean, as if the person Shen Yi had never appeared in that bloody opening act. I opened WeChat again and scrolled up. The sobbing, condolence messages from a few days ago had also vanished without a trace. Even the most recent chat history between Zhao Zhu and me only stopped at jokes about calling male escorts. I took a deep breath and called Zhao Zhu. Hello, Shen Yi, what are you doing so early? Zhao Zhu's voice had the nasal sound of someone still sleepy, with the noisy morning news in the background. Zhao Zhu, dumpling. I tried to make my voice sound calm. A few days ago, the news said I died. Do you remember? The other end of the line was silent for 2 seconds, then Zhao Zhu's characteristic innocent, carefree laugh rang out. Haha, Shen Yi, are you sleepwalking? What kind of nightmare? What death talk? I'd believe you're alive and well and going bankrupt calling male escorts. What news report would dare to fabricate something like that? I'd sue them to death. Her tone was purely bewildered and amused, without a hint of pretense. She truly remembered nothing at all. Was it because my survival prevented the plot from continuing, so the plot was forcibly altered? The news said all Serpent Men had been arrested. So, did Lu Bai still exist? I took a deep breath. In any case, since this plotline had been forcibly skipped, did that mean that from now on my life could escape the plot? Was I completely safe? Thinking this, I suddenly felt much more relieved. To relax my mind, after checking out of the hotel, I drove home to my parents. My parents were both excited to see me, preparing a table full of delicious food for me. After eating my fill and chatting for a while, when I started to feel sleepy, I returned to my room to prepare for a nap. But just as I was about to lie down, I suddenly felt something was off. I thought of the dishes on the dining table earlier. Bright red boiled meat slices covered in chili and Sichuan peppercorns, glossy spicy sauce, spicy stir-fried beef, Even the green vegetables were garnished with fresh red chilies. I loved spicy food, addicted to it as much as life itself. But from childhood, my parents, especially my mother, a doctor, had almost strictly regulated my spicy food intake. Meals at home were always light and healthy dishes, but they truly were my parents, no mistake about it. I looked at the room door and suddenly remembered that in college, to prevent my parents from using cleaning as an excuse to snoop through my diary, I had installed a tiny pinhole camera inside the door near the lock, extremely discreetly. The camera was connected to an app on my phone, and I had never removed it. I hurriedly took out my phone and opened the long-dormant surveillance app. The screen lit up, displaying a live image of the hallway in front of the door. With just one glance, my heart clenched in terror. In the surveillance camera, my father and mother stood side by side, stiffly in front of my room door. Their posture was very rigid, like two puppets hanging by strings. No talking, no movement, just staring, unblinking at the closed door. Suddenly, in the image, my mother's head slowly, little by little, lifted with an extremely slow, unnatural posture. Her face was directly and precisely facing the hidden location of the camera. That face belonged to my mother, originally gentle and kind, now looked like a crumpled mask that had been forcefully flattened, the corners of her mouth ripped open extremely exaggeratedly on both sides, forming a chilling, distorted smile that revealed her pale white teeth. Even more terrifying, in her empty eyes, two thick, dark red streaks of blood were oozing out, running down her pale cheeks. She looked straight at the camera, opening her mouth in a silent, deranged laugh. The next second, thump, 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 heavy impacts echoed through the door, making the door frame rattle violently. Whatever was outside was frantically slamming its body against my room door. No, the people outside the door were not my parents. Simultaneously, the words on the screen before my eyes exploded like fireworks, carrying an almost cruel excitement. It's here, it's here. The classic body possession plot, the achievement of killing one's own parents, is about to be completed. Dramatic. This female character is about to die at the hands of the people she loves most. That's right, she's still the male lead Chen Sen's first love. Her death is the key for the male lead to officially enter the spiritual world, opening the path to monster hunting and leveling up. Body possession. Was it because I didn't die at the hands of the Serpent Man that the author deliberately arranged a new death script for me? I gritted my teeth. Why was this author so intent on making things difficult for a small supporting character like me? The room door groaned under the frantic impacts. The lock area noticeably bulged. In that critical moment, I suddenly thought of Lu Bai. But it was daytime now. But what if? I felt like I was grasping a straw, frantically reaching into my empty coat pocket. My fingers fumbled desperately at the bottom of the pocket. Cold sweat immediately drenched my back. The serpent bone whistle had strangely disappeared. Was it because the Serpent Man storyline had concluded, or because, in my role as Shen Yi in this new plot, I had never met Lu Bai? Crash, a loud bang. The room door was forced open, creating a gap. A hand, covered in purplish-blue corpse spots and black nails, suddenly reached through the gap, wildly scratching. No time. I lunged towards the window, pulling the latch with all my strength and pushing the window open. The second floor wasn't high, but below was hard cement ground, and next to it was an old, rusty drain pipe. Gasping, panting, behind me an inhuman growl echoed, accompanied by the sound of heavy breathing and a pungent, bloody stench. I gritted my teeth, flipped myself onto the windowsill, unhesitatingly gripped the cold drain pipe, and slid down with both hands and feet. The moment my feet touched the ground, a chilling asterisk click sounded above my head. I abruptly looked up, only to see my father and mother clinging to the windowsill and the outer wall in a posture completely contrary to human anatomy, their heads hanging down, limbs twisted, their necks bizarrely twisted 180 degrees. Their pale faces were turned directly down, staring at me, their blood-red mouths agape to reveal pale teeth. Then, like two giant human lizards, they scrambled down the wall on all fours with terrifying speed, rushing towards me. My soul fled. I rolled and crawled towards the car parked in the yard, trembling as I fumbled for the keys to unlock it, pulled the car door open, and started the engine. The car roared out of the gate. In the rearview mirror, those two distorted figures seemed to hesitate slightly in the sunlight, but only for a second. Then, like maggots clinging to bone, they furiously chased the car on all fours. The sunlight hit them, their skin sizzling and emitting faint black smoke, but it couldn't stop their insane speed. My heart felt like it would leap out of my throat. I looked in the rearview mirror, and when I no longer saw those two things, I breathed a sigh of relief. However, the very moment the car plunged under the thick shade of trees, crash. Crash! Two loud bangs accompanied the sound of the windshield shattering into a spiderweb pattern. My father and mother, like two giant, distorted human skins, clung tightly to my windshield. Their bloodshot eyes, almost bulging, pierced through the shattered glass, glaring at me. A hand with black nails penetrated the broken glass, carrying a bone-chilling cold gust of wind, grabbing straight at my face. It turned out I hadn't escaped them earlier. They had jumped onto the roof of my car. That's why I couldn't see them in the rearview mirror. Extreme fear shattered my reason. I mumbled to myself, "This is not my parents, this is not my parents." Survival instinct crushed everything. I let out a piercing scream, not only not braking but slamming the accelerator. The engine roared as if dying. The car, like an out-of-control steel monster with two things frantically clawing at its windshield, slammed directly into a large, ancient sycamore tree outside the police station wall at the end of the tree-lined road. Crash! A violent impact. The airbags immediately deployed, hitting my face hard. My vision was completely white, my ears ringing piercingly. A warm liquid flowed down my forehead. The windshield was utterly shattered, and a cold, sticky liquid with a pungent, foul smell splattered all over my head and face. I watched the two mangled bodies that had been crushed by the car rapidly dissolve before my eyes. I wiped the blood from my head, turned the car around without hesitation, and drove the nearly destroyed vehicle towards the police station. At the police station, I tried to stay calm and recounted the events to the officers, but all the police looked at me with complex eyes, eventually making a call to a mental hospital and escorting me out the door. I stood in front of the police station, calmed down for a long time, then took out my phone and called my parents. Hearing their familiar voices on the other end, I finally breathed a complete sigh of relief. Fortunately, I hadn't guessed wrong. Body possession wasn't literally a soul entering a living person, but rather the ability to transform into the shape of a living person. So, the people I had just run over weren't my real parents. After hanging up, I thought for a moment, then called Zhaozu. I remembered she had a grandmother who was a shaman. Perhaps she would have a solution. I don't know how long passed before a familiar, muffled voice echoed in my ear. "Shenyi, oh my god, how did you get into this state? I'm scared to death." After listening to my story, she gasped in astonishment and immediately said she would contact her grandmother to help me. She drove her pink beetle towards her apartment complex, a mid-range complex with an elevator. Zhaozu drove, trying to lighten the mood. "Oh right, my grandma used to draw me a lot of protective talismans that specialized in dealing with evil spirits. If you carry them with you, no demon or ghost will dare to come near." With that, she produced a triangular folded yellow paper talisman from her handbag, as if presenting a treasure, and placed it in my hand. The talisman was warm to the touch and carried a faint scent of incense. Zhaozu parked the car and helped me towards the elevator. The elevator doors, smooth as a mirror, reflected our images. Zhaozu pressed the up button, still mumbling about the talisman's efficacy. The elevator doors slowly opened. Just before I was about to step into the elevator car, a cold current, like an electric shock, suddenly ran up my spine to the top of my head. All weariness and numbness were immediately dispelled by a chilling alertness. Zhaozu has a problem. Zhaozu suffered from severe claustrophobia. Only a few of our closest friends knew about this. That's why when she bought her apartment, she was very selective, deliberately buying the only low-floor apartment on the third floor of this building, where there were only 2 apartments per floor. She'd rather take the stairs every day than step into that cramped elevator car. Yet now, she was pressing the elevator button so naturally, even with 1 foot already inside. "What's wrong, Shenye? Come in quickly." Zhaozu stood inside the elevator, turning to look at me, her face still filled with worry and urgency. That's the expression. It was identical to the faces of those 2 things when they served spicy food at my parents' house. Perfect, but utterly devoid of life. The hair on my body immediately stood on end. Without a moment's hesitation, just as she reached out to pull me, I suddenly yanked my hand back, spun around with all my might, and ran like hell towards the parking lot exit. "Shenyi, where are you going?" "Behind me." Zhaozu's voice rose, full of surprise. Immediately afterward, that voice suddenly transformed, no longer Zhaozu's clear voice, but a sharp, venomous hiss. Neither male nor female, trying to run? I didn't even dare to turn my head. As I ran, I threw the talisman she had given me to the ground, then watched with my own eyes as the talisman turned into a puddle of blood. I ran out of the garage gate at the fastest speed of my life. Blinding sunlight poured down, bringing a momentary, illusory sense of safety. The words on the screen also appeared one after another. It's over, it's over. This best friend isn't a real best friend either. It's a new form of body possession. So scary, it startled me. This female character would have a hard time escaping now even if she grew wings, killed according to the standard plot, dying at the hands of the person she trusted most. Zhao Zhu was running too fast behind me. I had no car now, I couldn't possibly escape her. I kept calling for help to the residents walking around, but they didn't see Zhao Zhu chasing me, even thinking I was a crazy person. Just as despair was about to swallow me, a few new lines of text flashed across the screen. Actually, the male lead lives in this area. He just moved in. Yes, 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 the penthouse apartment on the top floor of the building behind. If only this female character knew, it would be great. The male lead can definitely eliminate this body-possessing ghost immediately. The male lead is right in the building behind, go find him quickly. If I remember correctly, the address is Building 4, Unit 2, 20th floor, Apartment 202, the building behind. I suddenly stopped, my heart almost leaping out of my throat. Without a second's hesitation, I turned around and used my last ounce of strength to race towards the building indicated by the text. Zhao Zhu behind me let out an angry growl, her speed increasing. The elevator doors opened. I rushed in, frantically pressing the top floor button. Close the door, close it quickly. A pale hand suddenly reached into the closing gap of the door. The elevator door, encountering an obstruction, slowly opened again. Zhao Zhu's distorted face appeared outside the door with a sinister smile, half her body about to squeeze in. Get out. I pushed her with all my might but felt like I was pushing against a cold wall. In this split second, thwack, a small sound. The pale wrist that was about to grab my arm was firmly held by a slender, strong, bony hand. It was a clean, steady man's hand, possessing undeniable strength. Immediately afterward, a deep male voice, carrying a hint of coolness, clearly echoed through Zhao Zhu's venomous hiss. Filthy things dare to cause trouble in broad daylight. A beam of dark yellow light, like lightning tearing through dark clouds, shot down from above my head. Thunk, the sound of metal piercing old flesh. Zhao Zhu's body suddenly stiffened, the ferocious expression on her face instantly freezing. She disbelievingly looked down at her heart. A dark yellow peach-wood sword precisely pierced her heart. A dense, foul-smelling black gas furiously poured out from the wound, then her body completely dissolved. The elevator doors, losing their obstruction, slowly closed. In the confined space, only I remained, panting, and the man standing before me, who had just retracted his sword-wielding posture. He wore simple gray pajamas, tall and straight, with sharp facial features, a firm jaw, exuding a cold and distant aura. It was Chen Sen from the news photo of the Serpent Man's capture. He slowly turned around, our eyes meeting. I looked at him. This face had shed the naivety of his college days, adding a few more hints of maturity and shrewdness, but the features were still recognizable. This was the male lead the text mentioned, the one who unlocked my destined death. Chen Sen's gaze fell on my face, an extremely complex look. Surprise, disbelief, joy, finally settling into an almost burning affection. He took a step forward. Shen Yi, his voice was low and hoarse. It's really you. I didn't expect us to meet again. His gaze was focused and burning, almost wanting to melt others. The words on the screen almost screamed. Oh my God, this first love really went to find the male lead. These two standing together really make a handsome couple, totally shippable. But if this female NPC doesn't die, the plot will be hard to continue. Never mind, in horror stories, sweet moments are rare, let's enjoy them first. But I only glanced at Chen Sen awkwardly. I remembered that he and I only dated for a few days. Was our affection that deep? Why was he looking at me with such deep affection? It made my skin crawl. The words on the screen, meanwhile, were frantically scrolling. Male leads halo activated. Stick close to Chen Sen, absolutely safe. That's right, I suddenly realized. If this female character follows the male lead from now on, won't she avoid dying? Isn't it easy for the male lead's halo to save a small mortal? I carefully considered their words and found them very logical. That afternoon, I moved into the apartment next to Chen Sen. The first day there, everything was peaceful. The second day, still nothing happened. The third day, the fourth day, the midnight horrors, the body-possessing ghosts, seemed to be truly separated by an invisible barrier outside Chen Sen's world. The male lead's halo, was it that miraculous? I looked at Chen Sen, and though I remembered him being a weakling in college, I found him increasingly pleasing to the eye. After all, he was my lifeline now. I even began trying to return to a normal life, going back to work at the company. But on my very first day back at work, I discovered another abnormality. I went to my cubicle and saw that the workstations in the office looked like they had been erased by an eraser, leaving a large, empty space. A few familiar colleagues were still there, working diligently, ignoring the surrounding emptiness. "Where's Ms. Wang?" I pointed to an empty spot and asked Li next to me. "And Mr. Zhang's project team too. Why are there so few people? Did they transfer to another department?" Li looked up from her computer screen, blinking blankly. "Ms. Wang? Which Ms. Wang? Our department only has this many people. Mr. Zhang's project team? You mean Mr. Zhang? Doesn't he only have Xiao Liu and Xiao Wu working under him? They're all here." She pointed to two young programmers diligently working not far away. A chill ran down my spine. I forced myself to sit down calmly, then suddenly thought of something, hurriedly opened my computer and clicked on the messaging app. I then discovered my friends list. Aside from a few acquaintances, all other WeChat contacts had vanished. I was unwilling to accept it. I tried to find a few college friends, childhood best friends with whom I had good relationships. Similarly, a blank slate, as if they had never existed in my contacts, had never existed in this world. I abruptly looked around. A few faces remained in the cubicles, expressions focused but empty. The unrealistically bright sunlight outside the window shone on the empty office chairs, reflecting a cold light. A feeling of extreme panic, as if the whole world had quietly abandoned me, clenched me. Was this safety bought at the cost of the silent collapse of the entire world? And after days of being with Chen Sen, I found his change from college almost astonishing. The slightly arrogant male student who sometimes chewed loudly and had a bit of a bookish air had vanished without a trace. Chen Sen in front of me was almost flawlessly perfect, his gestures exuding meticulously designed elegance. He would bring coffee at the right temperature precisely on time in the morning. He remembered all my little preferences, always spoke gently and politely, his gaze focused and so affectionate. Even the small habits I hated most were completely gone. Is this the male lead? Can he improve so much in just a few years? But I always felt he was too perfect, perfect like a flawless mannequin displayed in a shopping mall window. Days passed. To survive, I played the role of a silent actress in the safe zone meticulously built by Chen Sen until that evening, the sunset painted the entire sky a rich golden red. As I walked downstairs, my footsteps paused. Chen Sen stood there, at his feet a giant heart sculpted from fresh red roses. Exactly 999 roses. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, holding a bouquet of fiery red roses. Amidst the countless curious or envious gazes of the neighbors, he flashed a deeply affectionate smile, enough to melt ice and snow. "Shen Yi," his voice, carried by the evening wind, had a captivating magnetism. "We've missed each other for too long." He slowly walked towards me. "I know I might have disappointed you before, but now—" He stopped one step away from me, a strange light and an almost fervent excitement sparkling in his deep eyes. "I can bring you unexpected surprises." Following his words, my gaze slowly dropped from his face. I was almost stunned. That place can still change? A second development? Before I could think, the next second, asterisk crash, a loud, earth-shattering sound. Right above us, the large glass window of Chen Sen's apartment suddenly shattered, countless sharp shards raining down. A figure stomped on the flying glass shards, majestically descending. His pale skin, under the blood-red sunset, exuded a cold, jade-like light. His gaze locked precisely onto Chen Sen, concealing a long-suppressed ferocity and a hint of almost imperceptible impatience, like someone searching for something lost. "Lu Bai, he still exists." He stood there, at his feet a messy pile of broken glass, radiating a suffocating low pressure. His gaze swept over me, carrying scrutiny and cold anger. His thin lips parted slightly. "You really made me work hard to find you." The deep affection and fervent passion on Chen Sen's face immediately froze, then shattered. He glared at Lu Bai. "How did you appear here? You shouldn't have appeared at all from the beginning. There shouldn't be someone like you, didn't I? How could it be?" He forcefully pulled me behind him again, his voice higher, carrying intentional indignation and warning. "Shen Yi, don't go over there. He's a Serpent Man, a monster. If you're exposed to him for too long, his negative energy will corrupt you and you'll die." His words were firm, full of the righteousness of a protector. The words on the screen immediately surged. Protecting the female lead. The male lead is so handsome. Serpent Man, get lost. Don't even think about harming our Chen Sen and Yi. Fight, fight. I looked at Chen Sen standing in front of me, then at Lu Bai a few steps away, standing on the broken glass, a stormy rage brewing in his golden-slit eyes. I slowly took a step back, this step moving behind Chen Sen. Lu Bai's body stiffened for a moment, then his eyes filled with fury. I looked at him and with a serious expression said, "I'm sorry, Lu Bai. You can't appear during the day, you can't protect me. Following Chen Sen is safer." Chen Sen turned to look at me, deeply moved. But just as he turned his head, I suddenly looked up, my gaze passing over Chen Sen's shoulder, directly meeting Lu Bai's cold golden-slit eyes. My lips moved slightly, forming a clear word. "Strike!" The golden light in Lu Bai's eyes suddenly erupted. Without hesitation, he lunged. His figure was as fast as teleportation, instantly bringing a chilling, murderous aura and a wind-tearing hiss. A pale hand shot directly towards Chen Sen's back. The force from that hand was sharp, carrying the decisiveness of a fatal blow. However, just as that hand, containing terrifying power, was about to touch Chen Sen's back, a sudden change occurred. It was as if Chen Sen had a giant halo around him. The force from Lu Bai's hand as it approached him was weakened 1,000-fold. Finally, when it touched Chen Sen's back, it was only like a push from a slightly stronger than average person. Lu Bai missed, his body momentarily freezing, his golden-slit eyes narrowing, staring at Chen Sen's back. His eyes were filled with astonishment and a rage at being toyed with by the rules. It was at this moment that I pulled out the sharp fruit knife I had clutched in my sleeve, without warning, and plunged it with all my might into Chen Sen's body. Targeting Chen Sen's back, thump! Chen Sen, who was lunging forward, suddenly stopped. He incredibly slowly and disbelievingly looked down at the blood-stained knife tip piercing through his chest. The surprise on his face froze, then he stiffly turned his head. He looked at me, his eyes filled with extreme astonishment, confusion, and a twisted pain of betrayal by the person he trusted most. "Shenyi, why?" I looked at him with an emotionless face, used force in my wrist, twisting the blade inside his body once, then I said each word clearly, "Because I don't want to play with you anymore. This world you created is boring and full of loopholes." His face stiffened. "How did you know?" I scoffed. "From the beginning, the death state of those killed by the Serpent Man showed abnormalities. This world was set up for the deceased to die having sex, then decompose. But those corpses decomposed in only one night, and their expressions showed no pleasure or pain whatsoever. They were like programmed mannequins, merely designed to display the tragedy of death. And for the person who reported the case, he only provided a simple setting. That's why I couldn't hear the informant's identity from the police's mouth. Because in the setting of this world, there was no specific identity for the informant at all. Chen Sen created this world, incorporating everything he knew about me but still missing a few small details. For example, Zhao Zhu, though clingy, is afraid of death. She would never intentionally come to stay with me knowing there was danger, or Zhao Zhu's claustrophobia. And Chen Sen knew I liked spicy food, but didn't know that at my parents' house, I wasn't allowed to touch even a bit of chili. Such minor loopholes were countless. Even more obvious was that he overlooked too many people in my life whom I wasn't very close to, easy to ignore. Those people weren't brought into this world. In this world, they simply didn't exist. So, this world, from beginning to end, was a male lead novel world centered around Chen Sen himself. He had built his image as invincible. All monsters would be weakened when encountering him, while he himself would evolve to perfection. And the only way to leave this world was to kill him. Chen Sen coughed up a mouthful of blood, his mouth agape to reveal blood-stained teeth. "Heh, you want to kill me, Shenye? You're cruel enough, but you have no idea of the consequences." He glared at me, then suddenly glanced at Lu Bai with a gloomy expression, his golden eyes blazing beside him. "Kill me, and this world will collapse instantly. All existences built upon me, including him," he used his last bit of strength to point at Lu Bai, "will vanish with me, turning into dust." "Do you still dare?" His gaze was fixed on my face, trying to catch a hint of hesitation and fear in my eyes. My gaze fell on Lu Bai. His pale, handsome face showed no expression, his deep golden-slit eyes just silently looked back at me, as if awaiting an answer. A small flicker of hesitation, like a stone thrown into a deep lake, passed through my eyes very quickly, but it was only for a moment. The next second, I forcefully pulled the fruit knife out of Chen Sen's back. As Chen Sen's body went limp, the last bit of madness and expectation in his eyes froze. With an emotionless face, I raised the blood-stained knife, aimed it directly at his heart, and plunged it in again with all my might. "So what?" I bent down, looking into his eyes that were rapidly losing their light, my voice calm as if recounting an unrelated truth. "There are plenty of men. I won't confine myself to another man's imaginary world for one man." A short, meaningless gurgle escaped Chen Sen's throat, his pupils completely dilated. Immediately afterward, a violent, indescribable roar, as if from the very end of the world, suddenly erupted. The ground beneath my feet warped and twisted like waves. Apartment buildings, trees, passers-by, everything around began to stretch, deform, and spin wildly. The entire world, centered around Chen Sen's corpse, was collapsing madly and irreversibly. Lu Bai's figure, in the distorted light and shadow, became blurry. Only those golden-slit eyes, piercing through the collapsing space and time, remained fixed on me. A severe sense of dizziness and weightlessness hit me like a tsunami, immediately swallowing me whole. I don't know how much time had passed. I struggled to open my heavy eyelids. What met my eyes was a dazzling white light. I was lying on a cold metal platform. Countless dense tubes and wires of various sizes were deeply inserted into, or rather, connected to my head. On both sides of my temples, the back of my neck, and the crown of my head, I felt distinct, unexpectedly cold foreign objects. Following those tubes and wires, they eventually converged to a gigantic computer nearby, blinking with countless indicator lights and complex data streams. The computer was connected to an enormous, arc-shaped screen that almost covered an entire wall. On the screen, a vast amount of code, complex 3D models, and countless me-s were scrolling at dizzying speed. There was me, terrified by the Serpent Man in the North City apartment. There was me, chased by a body-possessing ghost in the hotel. There was me, seeing the bloody, tear-stained surveillance footage at my parents' house. There was me, driving into a sycamore tree. There was me, surrounded by roses downstairs at Chen Sen's house. Every scene, every expression, every action was incredibly clear. Beside them were detailed parameters and comment sections. This was clearly a colossal production backend system, and Shenyu was the only main character model used and killed repeatedly. And someone had transmitted my brainwaves into this colossal computer, engulfing me in a massive data stream with the intention of never letting me escape. My gaze laboriously shifted towards the control panel. A hunched figure leaned against the control panel, filled with buttons and a bright screen, unmoving. This was Chen Sen, or rather, this was Chen Sen's corpse in the real world. He wore a stained t-shirt, his hair matted, his face pale and ashen from prolonged lack of sunlight. His face was pressed against the cold control panel, eyes wide open, pupils long dilated, holding extreme dissatisfaction mixed with frenzy and ultimate failure. A satisfied, almost grotesque smile still lingered at the corners of his mouth. It seemed that in the last moments of his life, he was still immersed in the virtual kingdom he had created, where he could control life and death. I took a deep breath, using all my remaining strength, and laboriously lifted my only movable right arm. My trembling fingertips fumbled, searching for a connector embedded in my temple. I pulled hard with all my might. Because my body had been confined in the laboratory for a long time, and Chen Sen had almost only fed me a little glucose every day, my entire body was practically skin and bones. After more than half a month in the hospital, I had only recovered a little. Chen Sen was quickly convicted, but since he was already dead, his family had to pay compensation. His family was well off, and his parents were ashamed of what he had done. They compensated me $5 million. I held the money, feeling quite good. On my way home, I suddenly saw a familiar figure by the roadside. The man's golden eyes stared intently at me, his voice gloomy. "You made me search for you again." I was stunned for a moment, then relaxed. All right, after all, with my physique right now, he's the only man who can satisfy me. Fortunately, in this world, Lu Bai could move freely day and night. It wasn't until much later that I learned that real-world serpent creatures actually exist. Lu Bai was the young master of the serpent tribe. When he was wandering at night during his mating season, he accidentally saw Chen Sen sitting in front of his computer, writing about the Serpent Man plot. He wanted to get closer to see how this human wrote about his own kind, but was accidentally drawn into it. Although due to Chen Sen's settings, he couldn't appear during the day in that world. Luckily, his power wasn't weakened. Therefore, the fake serpent men created by Chen Sen still ran away in fear when they saw him. Only when at the center of that world, meaning close to Chen Sen, was his power weakened 100,000-fold. After returning to the real world, Lu Bai's energy became more abundant, and he came to find me almost every day. My mother praised him as a handsome young man, and not long after, she let us go register our marriage. From then on, we lived a happy and uninhibited life.